Hello everybody and welcome back to Unit 6. So in this particular video, we'll be reviewing all of Unit 6 and kind of skimming over some of our landmark Supreme Court cases. Okay, so again, let's think about, we have split Unit 6 into two different and distinct parts. The first part is the actual court system, both the federal and state court systems and kind of how they work, qualifications to get into them for judges, and kind of some processes that go on inside of the court. And then the second half of our unit has been learning landmark Supreme Court cases. So let's dive in again from start to finish, and let's think about things that we need to look for. All right, so let's move on to how it works. So the federalism funnel, here we go. In our federal court systems, remember there are 3 layers of the federal court system, like there are 3 layers to our sad cake. S for Supreme, A for Appeals, and D for District. So those 3 layers fit right here in the top of this funnel. Now if we hop down to state courts for North Carolina, we have 4 layers of the court system. So we have Supreme, Appeals, Superior, and District. So that's the SAS-D cake, okay? And then here locally, there are a couple of different ways to work through that, but we are focused more heavily on federal and state courts. All right, so let's talk about some qualifications. We're going to go federal first and state second. So again, if you read through Article 3 of the United States Constitution, there are no qualifications to be a federal judge. Do not make things up on your Tech for Understanding. When I ask you what are the qualifications for a federal judge, you're going to say none in all caps, like you are shouting, okay? There are none. That's it. You just have to be you have to have a pulse. That's all. Okay? So you have to be appointed. The process to get a job. This is not a qualification for a job. This is the process. This is how it works. Okay? You have to be appointed by the president and approved by the, I hope you know this. If you said the Senate, that's correct. It is the United States Senate. Okay? You must be approved by the Senate. So while there are no qualifications in the Constitution to be a federal judge, we would sincerely hope that the United States Senate, which is the more powerful house in Congress, would be able to distinguish between whether or not you can actually do your job. Okay, so also there's some senatorial courtesy. The president, before the president appoints someone and puts them up to the Senate for approval, does not blindside the senators from that judge's state. The president is going to be like, hey, this is your boy from North Carolina, or this is your girl from North Carolina. Is that individual worth my time to appoint to the federal court system? The senators then get to be like, yes, we endorse this person, we like them, or no, we do not. All right, so now state judges have a whole slew of things that they have to do in order to qualify to hold that office. You have to be at least 21 years old. I know it seems kind of random, but you have to at least be voting age, which at the time of the North Carolina Constitution's creation was 21. Now we know because of one particular amendment that lowers the voting age to 18, and I hope you know what that amendment is. If you said number 26, you're correct. 2 plus 6 equals 18 to vote. All right, so you have to be at least 21 to hold office as a state judge. You must be able to practice law, okay? And that is a matter of public record. You can go online and see if your attorney actually holds a license to practice law or not. You must be a registered voter. You can't just be out here and not vote for people and still trying to be a judge. It's not how it works. Vote, 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 vote. All right, you must live in the district that you actually process cases in, or prosecute cases in, or hear them, I guess I should say. And you are elected by the people. You are not appointed by anybody. Don't have to get approved by anybody. You just must be voted into your office, and there's an 8-year term limit. If you're like, well, how do I know if I like this judge or not? I'm not going to sit in a courtroom all day. You can go online to nccourts.gov, and you can see how that person decides to sentence people, what cases that judge decides to hear, and what cases that judge decides to pass on to other people. Ask around, see if they've got a website. That's how you know whether or not you are going to like that judge and how they decide to rule. Okay, so benefits of being a federal judge. You serve for life. Okay, here's the deal though. If you act foolish and decide to break the law while in office, you can be impeached, okay, by Congress. So you can be kicked out by Congress. That is one check and balance that Congress has over the court system. Also, you cannot get a pay cut because of the decision that you make, okay? Your pay cannot be cut while in office. So when we are trying to slash things out of the budget, that's not really how it works. You can't just be like, and we're going to slash part of the judge's pay. That is not a thing that occurs. You cannot slash the budget for federal judges, any of them, not federal district court, appeals court, or federal Supreme Court. All right, so why are we this way? We're trying to make sure that they remain unbiased. They're not going to sway their decision based on whether or not they're going to get paid. They need to be basing their decisions on whether or not the Constitution allows for whatever action is being processed or questioned. All right, so we got 4 types of jurisdiction. That is the authority to give orders in a certain area. So it's not physical jurisdiction like a police officer would have, like a county line or a city limit. This is whether or not this particular case pertains to that courtroom. So for this one is OJ, not OJ Simpson and not orange juice. It's original jurisdiction. This is the authority to hear a case the first time it is presented. The whole point of original jurisdiction is this person guilty? Is this person not guilty? That's what we need to know. Okay, so in original jurisdiction for district courts, we're trying to find a verdict. Okay, that is the question of whether or not somebody has done the deed. Okay, the next one, if you do have a guilty verdict hanging over your head, this is hearing a case the second time. This is appellate jurisdiction. This is the second time, the third time, the 15th time, however many times you decide to appeal. You have essentially limited numbers of appeals. They can keep denying you the right to an appeal, but you can continue to appeal until you get let out or until you die while you're in prison or you get electrocuted or whatever, or sentenced to the chair, okay? Or I guess the needle is the one that we call it now. All right, so appellate jurisdiction is, again, any other time. The question now is not whether or not you did it. You already have a guilty verdict hanging overhead, so somebody thinks that you did it. The question here is whether or not the law was applied fairly to you. The answer choices are yes, no, or we're not sure, okay? So if it's yes, the law was applied fairly to you, they're going to keep the decision and send you back to cell block D. The question is, or if the answer is no, it was not applied fairly to you, they overturn your verdict and you go home. And if they're like, we don't really know, they're going to remand your case down to a lower court. All right, so most appeals courts have appellate jurisdiction. It sounds like the name. Okay, a third type is exclusive jurisdiction. This is only one court being able to hear a case. So anything that has to do with the oceans, it gets heard in federal court, not state court. Counterfeiting money is only heard in federal district court. You printing fake money does not get heard in the little podunk courthouse behind Sub Dogs. No, okay, it gets heard in federal district court in a big courthouse, okay, like the top-notch courthouse. All right, and the last one is concurrent jurisdiction. You see this a lot, especially with regards to loss of human life or people who have done things over state lines. This is concurrent jurisdiction, so multiple courts have the authority to hear a case the first time. This is also interesting when it comes to like hate speech or hate crimes. So some states don't have laws against hate crimes, and some states do. Like they do have laws against hate crimes, but their sentencing is a little different. So like there was an episode of Law and Order where a man ends up killing a gay man because that person was gay, which does constitute a hate crime under federal law. So the attorney walks into the room and tells the man, you can either be processed in state court, and you can plead guilty to manslaughter, which is like a step down from murder. It's not as bad as murder, although it sounds worse, and we'll get to that in Unit 7. This person says you can either take your chances in federal court and serve 25 years for manslaughter, or, no, it was state court. Nope, it was federal court. So you can either go to federal court for 25 years for manslaughter, or you can take your chances in New York State Court that does prosecute the death penalty for hate crimes, and you can be sentenced to death. So the man was like, well, I think I'll take the federal one. So federal and state courts can fight sometimes. Sometimes multiple states can fight. It just depends on who wants to prosecute the person the most strictly, okay? All right, we're going to skip through these things. Okay, also a quorum. This is a weird word, a quorum. This is when enough people are present to be productive. This number for the United States Supreme Court is 6. There are 9 total justices on the United States Supreme Court, and if 6 of them are at work, they can move on about their business, okay? If there are not a whole lot of people coming to work, they cannot get stuff done. So like this, it could be an example in the classroom also. So if there are less than half of our class if less than half of y'all show up, I'm probably not going to teach a new lesson. I'll probably just end up reviewing some old stuff. It's like picture day, or times when there's like a lot of athletes in my classes and there's like track meets and softball games and all kinds of things going on at the same time. There was one day that I had 30 kids in my classroom and I only had 7 by the time everybody left for athletic events and field trips. And I did not teach anything new because there were not enough people to be productive. Okay, so sad cake is U.S. courts. We got Supreme, we got appeals, and we got district. District has original jurisdiction, OJ. They have a judge and a jury, and they hear cases. Okay, they hear cases and reach verdicts. Then we pop up here to appeals courts. All right, so they have a 3-judge panel. They have 3 judges inside of them, no jury, just these 3 judges, and they have 3 choices. Was the law applied fairly to you? Yes, no, or we're not sure. If they say yes, the law was applied fairly to you, they keep the guilty verdict from district court that you came up there with. They deny you an appeal and you go on back to cell block D. If they're like, no, the law was not applied fairly to you, they overturn your guilty verdict from district court and they let you go back home. Also, I apologize for not closing these parentheses. Okay, if they're like, we don't really know, we're not sure, they're going to send you back down to a lower court. This is the only time that cases get sent back down to a lower court in the same court system. So if they're like, we don't really know, we'll give you a new jury and we'll probably give you a new judge. Also, this is called a remand, when you remand a case back to a lower court. Okay, so either yes, the law was applied fairly, no, it wasn't, or we don't really know. Okay, and then eventually, if you play your cards right and you ask nicely enough, you can get yourself up to the Supreme Court. There are 9 of them. They have 2 types of jurisdiction. Okay, they have OG and AP, or OJ, I should say. The only 2 times that you will ever have a case that starts and ends in the federal Supreme Court is if it's a case between states or it's a case with foreign diplomats, and those are extremely rare. Okay, remember there's 9 homies on this court. All right. And then we'll zoom through the state courts real quick. We've got Supreme, Appeals, Superior, and District. Let's remember, Superior and District both have OJ. They've both got original jurisdiction. District is specifically for misdemeanors and civil cases that involve less than 10K. All right. If your civil case involves 10K or more, or it involves a felony, you pop up here to Superior Court, and then you go Superior up to Appeals and such, or you can go District straight up to Appeals. You never go in between these 2, okay? And Appeals has the same 3 choices, and there are only 7 people on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Both of these levels, Supreme and Appeals, both have appellate jurisdiction. Okay? All right, I think that is about all we need to talk about with that. Yes. Okay. So again, I'm going to back up out of here just a little bit. So please remember that superior and district courts involve felonies and misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are less serious things: stealing all the good snacks from Sheetz, shoplifting, jaywalking, driving without a license, driving without a seatbelt on, nonsensical things like that that you should easily avoid. Superior court is felonies, so anything that is a violent crime, anything more serious, things of the nature of like murder, arson, armed robbery, possession with intent to sell or distribute, run in a trap house, all that kind of thing. Okay, so that is the federal and state court systems.